Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. I'm in our dining room in kind of a different place than I usually am because we have different stuff going on around the house. So if you hear noise, the kids are in a different room playing games with Daddy. We are stuck in the house today because there's a snowstorm here in Maine and it's still snowing and still really windy and gross. So anyway, and we were in the car most of the day yesterday for appointments. So they needed to get some energy out. So they're playing an energetic game in the other room, which sometimes leads to some happy yells. Anyway, the reason I'm doing the video today is we had somebody ask on our our YouTube page, a question the other day about our family and disabilities and choosing to still have children. That same person then asked the same question again on a different video, even though I had said, I'm going to make a video about this topic. So sometimes people ask questions and I find the question to be rude or like the person just wants to start a fight type thing. And sometimes I will delete a question like that. Sometimes I will answer the question because I feel like it is important to explain to people our point of view, or that I'm choosing to use the question to explain our point of view to people. But I also believe that what families choose to do, as long as it is a not sinful thing, is okay for them to choose. And if they choose to do something different than me, then that's fine. I'm just going to explain our point of view on these things. So anyway, this person was asking, because of the different disabilities in our household, why I would choose to keep having children. Nowhere in the Bible do I see that children are explained except for anything but a blessing, even if they were to have a problem or a disability. So I don't change my view on things just because I have a child with a disability. That said, I understand that we do have some genetic issues that lead to some of the things in our family that we deal with. But I think most people have genetic issues that they have to make a decision on having children, because I have friends who their family has asthma. And so would you tell a mom, no, maybe you shouldn't have another child because, an older child deals with asthma? We do have some asthma in our family, but we've never actually been hospitalized for asthma. So I'm not thinking, like, it wouldn't stop me from having children. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that this is a answer for everybody. I know that there are genetic conditions that you're very, very likely to pass down to your children. And I'm very thankful that God has not put us in a place where we have to deal with one of those conditions that is very life-altering and I forget what it's called, but like when it reduces the age that you'll live to type thing. I just realized you guys might hear a sewing machine in the background too. Lots of noise in our house today. So I understand why someone might make a different decision if they're faced with one of those situations where I have a child who has this very big genetic disorder, and if I have another child, they're very likely to have that. That's not what we are dealing with in our house. I'm answering for ourselves. So Mark has dystonia. We don't know that it's genetic. We think it might be genetic, but we can't get testing. They're kind of at a standstill with Mark of what can be done. There's not much they can do. Even if we were to go on to the specialist, it would just give us a name for the disorder, if it actually is dystonia or something else, but they don't really feel like we would have a different treatment plan than we have right now if we were to go on to the next step. So as of right now, we are not doing that next step. We have some blood work and things for Mark that have been done recently that we haven't gotten results for. But the next step would be going to the specialist, and it was winter in Maine and baby on the way, and we would have to travel about 4 hours to do any of that testing and then be in a city. So I'd have to go down to get Mark to these appointments and stuff. And then what do I do with the kids while I'm this pregnant and everything? So we're on a standstill with that. But for right now, nobody can tell us that it's a genetic thing. We've been trying to ask that question since Mark started these issues shortly after we got married. Well, it was actually shortly before we got married, but at that time we did not know it could be genetic. So we've been doing all of that. The condition I have, Charcot-Marie tooth, is something that is genetic. I got it from my father. My sister also has it. Different ones of my uncles had it. It's something that is passed down on a certain chromosome, and it's worse for boys, but not for girls. And there's just different things with it. And you probably have seen the videos that Samuel was recently diagnosed with Charcot-Marie tooth. And we just had Malachi tested yesterday because Malachi shows some weakness in his ankles that we're just trying to figure out like the name that we can put on it. Like, how can we move forward with this? Because there's two different thoughts of, do we get him braces because he has a degenerative muscular disease, which is what I have, or do we try to strengthen the muscles because it's not that and he has muscles there that just need strengthening? I do not look at Charcot-Marie tooth as something that is a huge disability. I know it's something that I have. I know it's something that I deal with, and it does change things in my everyday life. I have trouble opening jars. I can't write for long periods of time. I can't type for long periods of time, but I can write as much as I need to write my grocery lists and to do homeschool with my kids. I can type as much as I need to like I used to have a blog, and I could type as much as I needed to do the blog. I don't like to write that much. But it's not something that I ever looked at as this is going to change how my life works, because my dad had it, and my dad was very, very involved in the community. My dad was very, not super physically demanding jobs, but he wasn't just sitting at a computer screen all day. As he got older, his jobs got less physically demanding, but it was because he went back to school. And I'm proud of my dad for going back to school and improving himself. He had worked a lot of labor jobs from the time he was like 20 to 30, 35. And then he started working jobs which were more skilled jobs that he wasn't doing as much labor. But by the time my dad passed away of something different than Charcot-Marie tooth, it didn't have to do with that. He was a school teacher, so he was on his feet, or sometimes he would sit in a wheelchair because it was easier for him. But he was with the kids all day, and then he was still out doing community activities, helping set up for the 4th of July, helping do things over at the fire station. He was a firefighter for a while. He was a dispatcher. He worked security. Like, he did all kinds of jobs. And while growing up, I saw that we did things differently. Like, we were not a family that went to the beach on a regular basis. I don't know, maybe my parents just didn't like the beach. I know my mom likes the beach, but it was something that it wasn't, I don't remember her going to the beach when we were a kid. I know that I have trouble walking on the sand for long periods of time, or like on a rocky beach, but I really don't feel like that hinders my whole life because I don't go to the beach as often as people. And because of multiple people in our family, but one of them being me, we don't go hiking up a mountain. But life can be pretty good, and you can raise your children and be a good wife and glorify God without ever climbing a mountain. So I think that there's people in a lot worse situations than I am who still are doing all the things that God has called them to do, who might not be able to physically play the games and do the activities that our people are doing. And I don't see that as a reason why I should not have children come into this world who are going to be able to be productive members of society, and hopefully through God's grace be Christians who will lead others into the kingdom. So, sorry, my Instant Pot's going off. I should stop in a minute. There we go. So because I don't see my disability as something that's causing lifelong trauma for my child. Yes, it's something they have to deal with, but it's not something that is causing them to not be able to be a human being and do the things that they want to do. And different people do things differently. I personally don't like to swim, but if I like to swim, my Charcot-Marie tooth would not change that. And so I could go on and be a swimmer. Like, there's a lot of things that each person chooses not to do because it's not something that's exciting or entertaining to them. And that was kind of, as a child, my parents gave me so many opportunities to do things that I never felt like I was missing out because we didn't go hiking, because we did lots of other things that didn't involve hiking. But it involved helping people. We did a lot of helping people. We did a lot of being involved in our town. So anyway, so if that's the reason people think that I shouldn't be having children, yes, I know it's something that I could pass on to them. And it's something that you can go on and lead a long, healthy life. So it's not even something I consider. That's something I consider kind of like I might give my child asthma. I don't think that's a reason to like even question why you would have children, because we live in a age that we can get medical help and we can do the things that we need to do. My disability does not have me in the doctor's office all the time. Even if it did, it's not a problem. I'm just trying to, for this person who asked about my family specifically, I go to the doctor during pregnancy because I'm pregnant. So I've had a lot of appointments recently. I don't think I've seen my primary care doctor for a few years because I go to my midwife in between, and I'm a healthy person, and I have called with questions before, but nothing ever needed to come up that I needed, like blood work and stuff. So, so my kids see doctors as they need to, but like Samuel saw the doctor for his diagnosis of Charcot-Marie tooth, and then went and saw the person to make braces 2 different times. Once to get them fitted, like to get them made to make the molds for them, and then the second time to get them put on. But it's not something that we're constantly in a doctor's office, or he's having, treatments or anything like that. Again, not saying that it's wrong to have a child and be doing all those things and still think it's okay to have children. I'm addressing this person specifically who was talking about my family. So you go down the list. Virginia is a very healthy adult now. She's 20. We do have an older son, but he is not as open with things, so I don't talk about him on the channel. But he's also my stepson. So for people asking why I continue to have children, that doesn't matter in this discussion. What was I gonna say? So Virginia, she's 20. She's a fairly healthy person. She goes to the doctor if she needs to. She's pregnant and the pregnancy is going well. Doesn't really have any problems other than she has Raynaud's, which her fingers and toes turn purple, but they have not found sometimes Raynaud's is just its own syndrome, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a syndrome. And sometimes it's related to some other illnesses, but hers is just Raynaud's alone. Naomi has Raynaud's, but other than it's hard to go out in the cold, they both are fine. Virginia, since she's been living in Tennessee, really doesn't have many problems with her Raynaud's at all. So if it's because God's put us in Maine right now that we don't do snow and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm okay with not doing snow. I don't like to slip on the ice. So our next child down is Samuel. His issue is the CMT, and I just explained why I don't think that's a huge deal. Next child on down is Josiah. Josiah is our 11-year-old who has CP and epilepsy. He, from what can be determined by the doctors, he had a stroke in utero. There was nothing in my pregnancy or birth that would have caused that to be the problem. There was nothing I ate, drank, did otherwise that caused him to have the stroke in utero. But the stroke in utero is what has caused the CP and the epilepsy. So it's not something that I would have another child who would have that. It was kind of a freak accident. Could I have another child that had that? Yes, anybody could. It was, again, a freak accident. But it's not something that would hinder me from having more kids because Josiah has this issue. It's not something that's getting passed on or anything like that. And the way we structure our family, we have, even when Mark was working, we've always been together as a family because we homeschool and everything. And so when I need help because we have a child who's a little more medically needy, I have my older kids around to help. And when I say help, I mean sit with Josiah when he's had a seizure because he's a little confused and might try getting off the couch. I'm not saying I make them do all the work or anything like that. Or I have an older child who can help make a meal while I'm sitting with him. We work as a family. And if you had a child who was down with the stomach flu for a couple days, you'd do the same thing. You'd have another person, whether that be the spouse or the child or a grandparent or whatever, come over and help with the tasks that aren't getting done because you're caring for the child. For Josiah, sometimes that's very busy for a few weeks. We just had a streak of seizures that it was very busy for a couple weeks that I had to have people help in extra ways. And then there's days that Naomi has the whole day. Naomi's my just turned 17-year-old. She has the whole day to do what she wants, and she's not doing kitchen tasks and she's not doing other things. So it's just depends on the needs of the day. So Josiah wouldn't cause me to not have kids. I'm going to go down the list with the others. I mentioned we have some asthma. Samuel, who I already mentioned, the 14-year-old, has asthma. Again, never been hospitalized for it. We actually haven't even needed to treat him in the past couple of years for asthma, except for hiccups, except for an occasional, he has a cold, so he'll take the inhaler. But we haven't even been, the doctor has not needed to see him for his asthma other than at, his yearly checkup, how are things going type thing. Next one down is Abigail. She seems totally no issues at all. I can't think of anything she deals with. Next one down is Uriah. He's 6. He has asthma. We've been dealing with going to see the breathing specialists over the past year, every couple months, just to make sure that we're on the right medication, which they put us on the medication and it started working immediately. So it's more like check-in once in a while. But again, nothing that's ever hospitalized us or anything. We just wanted to get on top of when he's sick, being able to have something to make him more comfortable. But that's the only time we really deal with it, is when he's sick or when it's cold outside. So again, in Maine, we stay in the house a lot. It's getting to be spring. Once the storm's over, hopefully it'll be spring. Next one down is Malachi. And the only thing with Malachi is he has some weakness in his ankles. And so that's why we're getting the test, to see if it's CMT, so we can go on, get braces if that be necessary. But some kids are just different than others. We have a baseline. There's a baseline of what kids can do at different ages and everything. And Malachi is on the uncoordinated side of that. But if you know anyone in our family, we're all on the uncoordinated side of it. So it's really not surprising to me. It would just give us an answer for that. And then we have Gideon. After Malachi, we have Gideon. He's 2 and he doesn't have any issues that we can tell. So I don't want to say people are wrong when they have to make really hard decisions about children with very difficult medical issues on whether they continue to have children or not. But for our family, the things that we do, God says that children are a blessing. And our children are a blessing to us. And we're trying to raise them to glorify God and be a blessing to the world in the future. And all of them are able to do that, even with the disabilities that we deal with. The disabilities don't surprise God. God knew exactly what he was putting in our family. He knew exactly how many children we're going to have. That's not a surprise to God. If God felt that we shouldn't have more children because we have too much on our plate, God would stop that. Because it's actually, if you look at the science behind it, it's actually very difficult for a woman to get pregnant with all the things that God has put in place for the reproductive system to work. I know people think someone had sex one time, they're going to have a child. That's not how it works. And children are a blessing. God has put them there. God has put them in each family. People who have children with disabilities know that they grow stronger, even if it's not the trial we want to walk through. God is using it for the good for those who love him, to grow them closer to Christ. And even in things that happened, like I had a stillborn. I don't know if this person who was asking knew about that, but I had a stillborn baby and I've had some miscarriages. A lot of pregnancies end in miscarriage. My miscarriages have been spread out, so they don't feel that it's something that I'm missing some major nutrient or something like that. They just happen as babies start to develop, and you find out you're pregnant very early on. You then can find out that you've lost the baby very early on if there's a chromosomal problem or something like that. None of my babies that I lost to miscarriage do we have a specific answer of to why that happened. And then our stillborn was because of some medical malpractice and an infection. It wasn't something that was something I'm going to deal with in a future pregnancy per se, as long as I go by the guidelines with my midwife that we've been working on to just know to be aware of that problem. So yeah, I guess I'm just here to say that God has a plan for each family, and I don't see any of our disabilities hindering me from continuing to have blessings for God for as long as he chooses to continue giving us blessings. Thank you for your concern for our family, but our family, this is our family. This is how life is, and none of us are the worse for it. It makes us cling to God tighter, makes us cling to each other tighter. We know people don't understand our life and our lifestyle until you've walked through something similar. But it makes you every day just grateful for what God has given you. And I'm going to continue to just serve God in whatever way I can. And if that means that this baby that I'm carrying is my last one because that's what God chooses, then that's what it'll be. And if God continues to give us more after this, then that's what we'll do. So thank you for joining me. Oops, sorry. Thank you for joining us on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. We'll see you next time.